Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of the Corona Spotlight 2020. I am Gayle Nicholson, your host, so to speak, and I am so glad to see you again today. This is amazing. We're still going. Um, Thank you so much for joining us. Today, I have the pleasure to talk to a lady that comes from Canada, which has always had a huge spot in my heart. I lived in Canada for 7.5 years, and I really miss the people and how nice and commonsensical they are. And I came across this particular lady, and man, she took what was my dream maybe 20 years ago and totally fulfilled it for her own life. I'm sitting over here going, that is absolutely amazing what she's done, and I couldn't have done it better myself. So I want you to know all about her. Please help me welcome Miss Sylvia Pleister. I did it again. Sylvia Plester-Silk. Oh my gosh, I misspelled that. Anyway, it is so wonderful to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm great, Gail. It's great to be here to have a conversation with you today.
Thank you. Um, Audience, I have to call this out, and I have to laugh about it because I practiced her name before we started the show, and I did it right when I practiced it and did it wrong on the show. So apparently that's becoming my trademark. I butcher everybody's names, so not just yours. So thank you so much for joining me today. When we did our little prep conversation for this show, I was absolutely amazed at all of the training that you have done over the years that fulfill and flesh out your abilities as an energy psychotherapist. So tell me a little bit about that curiosity drive that keeps you learning all of these different technologies year after year after year.
So I'm going to say to you, Gail, I'm not sure that it was complete curiosity. Initially, it was and we're in my 25th year having learned energy therapy as of May 12th.
Congratulations. Happy
Um,
anniversary.
exactly. It feels like a milestone and a fabulous milestone. And so initially, when I first learned therapeutic touch, I was really, really curious and I wanted to learn more and grow more because I had been a complete disbeliever. I had
Really?
a headache and I was co facilitating a group with a volunteer who knew how to do this thing called therapeutic touch, like seriously. And she said, "Let me help you with that. Let me help you with your headache." And I went, "Whatever." But because I respected her, I said, "I'm just going to placate her
Hmm.
and just let her do her thing, and it's not going to hurt me." Well, she started to do therapeutic touch, and within 30 seconds, it felt like the headache just flipped off my head and it was completely gone. And so in 30 seconds, I went from being a total skeptic to this is all BS to what the heck is this and how do I find me some? And so then within 2 weeks of that experience, I was enrolled in my first therapeutic touch. I was actually attending my first therapeutic touch course.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
We
And it went
energetic
from
drug
there.
dealers out here just giving a free one for the first freebie and getting you hooked on it and all.
Exactly. And then what happened was I went from curiosity, and back then I had this sense that I'm not enough. And I think possibly some of the listeners can relate to that feeling of I'm not enough. I need to take another course. If only I take this course, if only I get this qualification, if only this, then finally I'll have arrived and I'll be successful. And
Nice.
so from 1995 to 2004, I was taking some form of energy training nonstop. And then 2004, I went, okay, enough. I think you know something about you know something. And then I went from this feeling like I needed to prove myself into this place of being really picky and choosy about what I learned
Hmm.
and listening more to my intuition and stepping away from my fear of missing out on something.
Nice.
Right.
Nice. Isn't it interesting how that process gives us certain awarenesses as we move through it?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so then I think I didn't take another course till 2006, and that was Akashic record reading.
Now, tell me a
Um,
little bit about that. I've heard of that before. I've known a couple of people who do it, but I really don't. Is it really like there's this energetic library somewhere that's got everyone's book of life in it, so to speak?
I wouldn't say, I wouldn't go for the literal library, although there are some people when they go into their Akasha, they see like books like on the backs of your shelf there. Um, for me, when I go into the Akasha, and I never really understood this for a while, but I see infinite number of doors.
Okay,
And what I've come to know is that those doors belong to different people that I read for. So if
interesting.
I am doing a reading for you, I go into my own Akasha and then I find your door and open your door and I'm in your Akasha,
Interesting.
right? So let me step back though and really
Okay.
answer the question, because think about having like this massive supercomputer that has all of the information or all the data or files from the beginning of mankind. So every conversation that's happened, every action and deed that's happened, every thought that's happened is held in this supercomputer. And we all individually are made of energy and have our own energetic fingerprint, right? So
Right.
for me, that energetic fingerprint shows up as a door. For other people, it shows up as a book.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so our fingerprint is there. So I'm able to find your fingerprint or your door and be able to answer your questions about what you're stuck about, that kind of thing. Because and it's very interesting because I always tease that it's very highly confidential, my
Mm-hmm.
readings, because most of the times I don't remember anything after I come out of the Akasha. So if you don't
That's
want
good.
me to know, no problems. I don't need to know.
Just kind of
Um,
wipes it on exit, huh?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Nice. Very nice. Awesome. Well, one of the what else did you learn like after Akashic Records? Because you're still kind of ongoing up until, let's see, that was in 2006, right?
Hmm.
Was that like the last major training that you re- consumed before you started teaching and doing what you do for people?
Well,
Was there more?
uh, what I did, so I'm going to just tell you that in 2010, I closed my private practice in therapy and energy work,
Okay.
and I walked away from it and started to do consulting for
Gotcha.
businesses. So I took a whole lot of training around professional speaking and how to show up and how to run a business. Because frankly, as a social worker, we were never taught how to run a business.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I spent a lot of time in doing that. And then I had a bucket list item to hike to Machu Picchu,
Really?
which I did last year at the age of 55. And that's not a great time to be starting your hiking career, let me tell you. But I did it. I can say I did it.
Congratulations. That's
Uh,
pretty amazing.
so I did the 5 day hike
Mm-hmm.
to Machu Picchu. And during that time, I had obviously learnings, but more of the intuitive learning than the book learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I came back and got very clear messages from my guides that I was to return to doing the social work, the energy work, and the Akashic readings. And every day for about a 2 week period, I would get some kind of confirmation that
Mm.
this is what I was supposed to do. So
Nice,
I'm like,
nice.
Uncle,
Yeah.
okay, I'll do it. Now
Right.
what? Just show me the path and show me the way. And so I'm really excited now to be doing this work again. Kind of feels like coming home.
That sounds like it. It sounds like it. I know we had talked before about how you got like called back up into service again. And that's a beautiful way to have been, brought back around after this hike to Machu Picchu. And did you have any kind of revelation on the mountain?
What I can say is there were a couple of times when I would look at my hands and I would say to somebody, I feel like I'm supposed to be doing more with my hands.
Mm.
which is right, like my therapeutic touch, right?
Right,
Out
right,
of my hands. When I do Reiki, it comes out of my hands. When I send you love and healing, it comes out of my hands, right?
right.
And but I never really clued in. And I kind of was on this other path and trying to kind of force it to work,
Mm-hmm.
frankly. And so I was maybe a little stubborn hearing the messages, and that's why they maybe needed to yell at me for 2 weeks.
Right, right. I often joke with my friends, okay, you're gonna hear the tap, you're gonna hear the knock. You better listen before the 2x4 shows up.
Exactly. Yeah, it was amazing because I came back and I was getting very strong messages from my guides as I came back, and they had said to me, "Stop working so hard. You're trying to force things,
Mm-hmm.
and when you try and force things in your business, you constrict the energy so much that it doesn't flow." I'm like, man, wish you told me that a year ago. Thank you. In any event, so the next Wednesday, I went, I don't feel like working today, and I thought, well, then I'm going to take the day off. And I was sitting playing on my tablet and watching TV,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought of this woman that I had met just before I went to Peru. And I thought she does readings. And I thought I was going to get a reading done by her. Oh, I wonder what her name was. Oh, I don't even know where I put those cards. And
Mm-hmm.
within 10 minutes, her little messenger bubble pops up. And I look at it and I'm like, that's her. And so I'm like, I think this is a message. And I texted her and said, when could you do a reading? That afternoon, I did a reading with her.
That's awesome.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the very first things in the reading, she said, I feel like you're supposed to go back to social work and get your registration again. And I'm like, social work? Yeah. And do work with trauma survivors. And I'm like, wow, okay. I've done that work a long time ago. And I was honestly a bit resistant. And then a little while later in the reading, I said, what about the Akashic records? And both, like every cell in my body yelled yes, and every cell in her body yelled yes.
Yeah, I'm getting little
She said,
goosey bumps right now too.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so she said, yes, but I still feel you're supposed to get your registration and social work back. And I'm like, whatever. Right. Next morning, I wake up. I look at my cell phone to see what messages come in. And there's a message from a past client saying, I don't think I ever shared with you how grateful I am to your wisdom and healing and support all those years ago. And I'm like, I hear you. I'm supposed to go back to social work.
Don't you just love how things like that work? It's almost like the universe is going, "Hey, you, I need your help. Send her a message for me, please." So
Yeah.
she knows that, yeah, yeah, what she's doing is landing and it's valuable, and she needs to keep doing it. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So, and it
Absolutely.
was things like that every day. I went out that evening to an event, a networking event, way back in the good old days when we could be in person with each other.
Mm.
And one of the guys said to me, "Oh, you should come see our new office space. You know, we have an office available." And I'm like, "Okay, I hear it. I'm supposed to get an office. Okay, right." And then I went to look at it. And I knew that wasn't the right office, but just the confirmation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I went to one of my mentors and I said, "So, Larry, what do you think? I'm thinking about going back." And he's like, "It's exactly what you should do. You're an excellent therapist." I said, "Gee, Larry, tell me what you really think." And so it was things like that. And even I went to see another office, and I'm like, I know this isn't the right office. It's in the downtown. There's no parking. It's going to be a square box. It's not my place. And my guides are like, "Go."
Okay.
I'm like, "Okay, but I'm wasting their time. Go." All right. So I'm talking on the phone to this person at that point, and I say, "Okay, I'll meet you there in whatever time frame." And off I go to meet her. I get there, I'm there 30 seconds, and I know it's not the right office. But as I'm walking in, a friend of mine, Wendy's office is in the building, and I walk by it. So I walk out and I'm like, "Oh, Wendy, I'm going to just check and see if Wendy's available," knowing she's not going to be available. She books back to back, back to back. She's an esthetician.
Mm-hmm.
I knock on her door, I walk in, there's Wendy standing just ready to chat with me. And we chat, and she says to me, you need to talk to Maura about getting the office. Well, don't I talk to Maura, who leads me to my office, room 333.
Nice. Very nice.
Right? Yeah. And one day I will get to use that office. I'm excited about that.
Oh gosh. Hopefully you
Yes.
do. Hopefully you
Yes.
do. So when you go and work in that office, or even in between now and then, who do you typically work with? Who are the people that you find themselves compelled to find you?
There are often people who have their own following. So they may be a therapist, a massage therapist, they may be a speaker, coach, and they're able to do it for someone else and help the other person have breakthroughs, but they themselves are like, why isn't it happening for me? How is it possible that I can help these other people do breakthroughs and I can't do it for me? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so typically it's women that I work with between probably 35 to 55,
Mm-hmm.
who really are frustrated and feel like there's something happen. Like, what's wrong with me that I can't get this together?
Mm-hmm.
I watch everybody else do it. Why can't I have it?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been in that space myself. Yeah, in the past. Right now, not so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But yeah, I've been there. It's very frustrating. So, and then what kind of results do you see them getting when they come to you? That just
So
go ahead, tell me.
we both like to talk, don't we, Gail? Um, so typically, people get a whole lot of clarity when they're working with me. And so we go from this struggle, overwhelm, frustrated place of not being able to give themselves permission to knowing what's right for them, and then being able to give themselves permission to take those action steps. But they're taking the steps not in a way where they're going against the grain, but where there's a place of flow with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
We get rid of a lot of trauma stuff that often is subconscious. So we often think about trauma from this lifetime. So I was sexually abused as a child and I need to work through that. But there can also be an intergenerational trauma that comes down through your DNA strands. There can also be past life trauma that can really impact you. And those things most people don't have conscious awareness of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Now, I typically work with people that have a belief in that
Mm-hmm.
they believe in past lives, they believe in intuition, they believe in energy. Because I think I would come off quite frankly as a big flake if you don't. And I'm not at all a flake. And so it's really helping you look at what's underneath and
Mm-hmm.
what is it that keeps getting in your way.
Gotcha.
So I'm able to very quickly go in and go, oh, here's what's going on. Bring that up to your awareness so that you can get the insights you need. Then we release the original energy that doesn't work for you anymore. And you have these new agreements and new ways of being that serve your path.
That's phenomenal. I think that is so valuable. Can you do this by Skype or Zoom or
I've
video?
been I've been doing I way back when I had my private practice before, I did it by distance and telephone.
Mm-hmm.
Now with all this newfangled technology,
Mm-hmm.
I use Zoom.
Awesome, awesome. I'm glad
Yeah,
that you're
yeah.
still able to do that even without an office. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's phenomenal stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. So is that like the only way that you would say that your work differs from other therapists, or how would you
I
say
think
that
it.
it does?
I think the other way that it differs is I don't make you talk on and on and on and on about the trauma,
Nice.
so you don't have to relive it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I remember when and I had excellent therapists when I was working through my childhood issues and stuff, and I would be taken into the trauma. and we would have to talk about it. So there was this belief that you had to talk about it and gain mastery through the voice. And the way that I work is just we talk about it long enough to get into the energy of it. So it's almost like I'm looking for the keyhole as we're talking. And I know once we're in the energy, and you don't need to tell me all the details because you don't need to relive them to heal. Right. And so my work tends to be faster. I mean, I remember a client saying, coming to see you is like going to 4 or 5 therapy sessions.
Nice.
Right. So one session with you, 4 or 5 with them. And my goal is like, let's just get you through this stuff. Let's get you to the other side because it's so much better on the other side.
Isn't it though?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I know you've got an event coming up tonight. Tell me a little bit about that. I think maybe some of our audience might be interested. It's kind of a last minute type of thing, but if they can get in, this might be something they want to get in on. Tell us about it.
So it is doing a teaching from the Akasha. And basically what it is it's a reading for a group of individuals. So whoever's on, and it is a Zoom call. So anybody in the world that is awake and alive at 7:00 Eastern Standard Time tonight could join us. If you want to know about it, or there's a post on Purpose Transformations on Facebook.
Okay. If you
On
can
my
give me
Facebook
that
page.
link, we can put it in the comments below this video too when I get it shared out.
Okay. And so what I'm doing is I'm doing a reading on a topic, and tonight's topic is happiness. So who doesn't want more of that? And who doesn't want it? I mean, there's so many theories about happiness. Happiness is about gratitude and our attitude. We're gonna hear from the Akasha, which is just a very high realm of vibration. What is happiness? And then my guests will be able to ask 1 or 2 questions about the topic of happiness, not about their happiness particularly, but just as if you were taking a school subject, what would the question be, right? And so I started doing these events in January of this year, and my goal is to be on the stage with it.
Phenomenal. Awesome.
Yeah.
Kind of like Esther and Abraham Hicks type of thing.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful. I could see that. I could definitely see you doing that. Absolutely. Awesome. Yeah. So what is the where can they find the link to get into it before we actually put it in the comments down below? What is
so again, the link will be at Eventbrite. But if you go to my Facebook page on Purpose Transformations, there's no each O, P, and T all have capitals, and there's no spaces in between.
Okay.
And that's where they can see the link there.
Awesome. Okay, great. That's really exciting stuff. Really exciting stuff. I want to thank you for what you have been doing over the last 25 years. Again, happy anniversary.
Thank you.
But even more so, just what you're doing right now in the world to make trauma easier to recover from. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I am, we have very, very similar stories, even down to the point of when I was going through my own recovery from childhood issues. There was an awful lot of talking going on, and it seemed to help to a certain point. But it takes so long to get to resolution that way. There is something to be said for it. You keep saying it over and over again until it means nothing to you, right? Just like you say one word over and over again until you go, what does that even mean anymore? Right?
Yeah.
So there's a school of thought for that, definitely. But yet there's a school of thought for energetics that gets to the resolution like that. And thank you for being one of the people that are facilitating that type of healing, because the healing shouldn't be re-traumatizing.
Exactly. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, Facebook, have an absolutely phenomenal Thursday, and we will see you again real soon. Bye. When
Bye.
you open yourself up to actual energy work, makes that recovery progress so much faster. That recovery is possible. You do not have to live as a victim until your last days. You have unbelievable strength, and I know that because you're still here. Do you want to create something completely unrecognizable with your life? I can show you how.